transfer of ownership or title of the goods. You see, transfer of ownership implies the transfer of all the rights to the property in the goods from the seller to the buyer. That means if the seller will not transfer the goods to the buyer, then the buyer cannot use the goods as he desires. That is why you see, for the purpose of a contract of a sale, it is inevitable that the transfer of ownership is required. And this transfer of ownership is called the transfer of a title to the goods. What is the purpose of this transfer of the title of the goods? That is to allow the buyer to use the goods as he desires. Is that right? So what is the importance of a transfer of ownership? So the importance of a transfer of ownership can be understood from the few points, which I'll discuss one by one. The first is that risk follows ownership. That means, you see, unless otherwise agreed, risk follows ownership whether delivery has been made or not. That means whether the goods will be in the possession of the other party. But if the ownership already transferred, that means the risk also transferred, right? Although the goods are in the possession of the another party. You can take the example. Suppose A transfers the ownership of the goods to the B, but physically the goods has not been transferred. But yet, you see, if something will happen, then the risk of the goods will now fall upon the what? Now the risk will fall upon whom? Which party?
B.
Yes. Okay. Although the goods are not in the possession, but still then the the risk follows. Why? Because of the ownership. Wherever the ownership will go, the risk will follow it. Is that right? And another one is only owner can sue. That means whenever suppose the goods has been damaged or anything happened to the goods, then who can sue for that? Only the person, that is the owner, can sue. Owner means only after the only after the transfer of ownership you can only sue for the goods which are damaged or destroyed by the action of a third party. Okay, because you see here the seller, that means the other party, although the goods are within his possession, but the ownership already transferred, so he cannot sue for any damages or destroyed by the action of the third party, right? Another one is in insolvency of the seller, or the buyer. In the event of insolvency of the seller or the buyer, the question whether official receiver can take over the goods or not, that depends on whether the property in the goods has been passed. That means ownership has been passed from the seller to the buyer or not. Okay, so if ownership already passed, then official receiver has the capacity to recover the goods, right? If the ownership has not been, then the official receiver
Sir, you are not audible.
Boss is not audible, sir.
phone কথা ହଉଛନ୍ତି କେ wait କର
Hello,
Yes, sir.
is that audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So you see what insolvency of the seller or the buyer. Now, whenever either the seller or the buyer will become insolvent, then the official receiver, whether the official receiver will take over the goods or not, it depends on entirely on the whether the property in the goods have been passed from the what a seller to the buyer or not. Okay, if the property in the goods has not been passed from the seller to the buyer, then the official receiver of the buyer cannot claim the goods, right? Another, that is suit for the price.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, can you please explain once again, sir?
You see, if any party, that means either the seller or the buyer will become insolvent, then his official receiver, whether he will claim the goods or not, that depends upon the ownership. That means whether the ownership has been transferred or not. You can take the example, suppose the buyer had transferred the goods but not transfer the ownership, right? Cannot transfer the, suppose suppose the seller not yet transferred either the goods nor the ownership of the goods. Here what will happen, the official receiver, now as the ownership has not been transferred, he cannot claim the goods. He can only sue for the damages, right?
Sir.
Next is your suit for the price. Suit for the price means what? Suppose if the seller has not sent the goods, if the seller has not sent the goods but transfers the ownership, right? Transfer the ownership. Now here you see the buyer has a right to file a suit for the price which he had already made the payment, right? That is why you see the transfer of ownership of the goods is very important, and we need to understand the time when the property in the goods is passed. Property in the goods means what? Ownership or the title of the goods has been passed. So for here, actually different situations are there. We need to understand these situations. One of the situations are, for first you see, goods must be ascertained. So whenever the goods are ascertained, when there is a contract for sale of what ascertained goods, then it is easier for us to transfer the ownership. But when there is a contract for the sale of unascertained goods, that means the goods has not been ascertained. Only after ascertainment, the goods will be the ownership shall be transferred, right? Here you see the property in the goods is transferred to the buyer unless and until the goods are ascertained. So a contract to sell unascertained goods is not a complete sale. Why? Because you see, unless the goods has been ascertained, it cannot be sold. That is why we cannot exactly tell it as a sale, but it is only an agreement to sell, not a contract of sale.
सर ये समझ में नहीं आया सर.
हाँ, अभी देखो क्या हो रहा है. कोई अगर आपके साथ एग्रीमेंट करता है कुछ गुड्स सेल करने के लिए और द गुड्स आर नॉट ascertained, इसका मतलब कौन सा गुड्स ये जो गुड्स है, सपोज उसके पास बहुत सारा माल है, तो उसमें से कौन सा माल आपको देगा वो ठीक से ascertain नहीं हो पा रहा है. ठीक है, उसके पास है गुड्स और वो जो गुड्स आपको देना चाहता है वही गुड्स भी उसके पास है, बट इट इज नॉट ascertained. That means first what is first required? first it is required that we should ascertain the goods. What is the exact goods which will be sold to you? ऐसा नहीं कि उसके पास बहुत माल है, लेकिन कौन सा माल आपको देगा ये तो पता होना चाहिए ना. ये अगर ठीक ascertain नहीं हो पा रहा है तो ये जो कंट्रैक्ट ऑफ सेल, ये कंट्रैक्ट ऑफ सेल नहीं, ये हो जाएगा आपका एग्रीमेंट टू सेल. ओके. नेक्स्ट इज योर इंटेंशन ऑफ द पार्टीज. तो अभी देखेंगे कि इंटेंशन, पार्टी का क्या इंटेंशन है, वेदर देयर इज अ इंटेंशन ऑफ ट्रांसफरिंग द ओनरशिप और नॉट. If there is no intention of the party to transfer the ownership, then we cannot tell it exactly what a contract of sale. Okay, we cannot tell it exactly as a contract of sale. It can be an agreement to sell. Right? And
sir, actually, sir, the agreement doesn't have the legal binding, na?
No, agreement, whenever agreement will fulfill all the conditions, then it will become a contract, na? So agreement and a contract, I made you understand that all agreements are not contract, but all contracts are agreements. That is why.
मेरा बोलने का sir, suppose somebody has made an agreement, then he has to take or not? There is no mandatory, na?
No. You see, if it is if it is an agreement and the other party fails to make fulfill any part of the agreement, then it will not constitute a contract. To fulfill once the parties they enter into agreement and fulfill all the essential elements of the contract, then it will become a contract. Right?
That's what I am telling you. Suppose it is not complying to contract, then that agreement doesn't have any legal binding, na? It is just one agreement.
Obviously. Okay. So where the intention of the party...
Sir, it is not clarified. My point is, only agreement without any legal binding, what is its value?
Its value, nothing. Its value is nothing.
So agreement doesn't have any value.
Oh yes, of course. We cannot any agreement suppose we have done, that means it is not a contract. So we cannot enforce it in a court of law. आपका मेरा एग्रीमेंट हुआ है लेकिन कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हुआ है, तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हुआ है तो
अभी सपोज अभी हम घर रेंट में दे रहे हैं, हम लोग एक एग्रीमेंट कर रहे हैं, तो वो एग्रीमेंट बोला जाता है ना, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बोला जाता है?
नहीं, वो अभी एग्रीमेंट है, लेकिन अगर कुछ पार्टी हम क्या करते हैं, वो एग्रीमेंट करते हैं लेकिन वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं है. ठीक है,
तो उसमें तो लीगल बाइंडिंग है. सपोज जो लिखा है उसको फॉलो नहीं करेगा तो both the parties can go to court.
No. You see, whenever you are just doing one agreement only, simply you are doing agreement, but you are not going according to that. Suppose agreement के टर्म के हिसाब से आपको 2 महीने का एडवांस देना है, आप 2 महीने का एडवांस नहीं दिया. Okay. Second thing is that suppose you see the party they don't have any intent. Other party have no intention to enter into contract, but only one agreement has been made. So what? It cannot be. That means it cannot be enforceable in law. If you have done that agreement, both party have signed over that, then you have done it. जो होता है आपका कोर्ट में एफिडेविट होता है and जो नोटराइज होता है, all these process whenever you will register it, then many processes are there. If all the conditions have been fulfilled, then only it will become a contract. Otherwise, a simple agreement cannot be enforceable in the court of law. समझ में आ रहा है?
Sir.
Okay. Okay. You see, where the intention of the parties cannot be ascertained. That means where the intention of the party as to the time when the property in the goods is to pass to the buyer cannot be ascertained from the contract. Then certain rules are there which are specified from section 22 to 24. Okay, wherever we are not able to judge the intention of the parties, to the contract, whether they have the intention to make the contract or not. For that, in that cases particularly, section 2224, okay, 20224 will apply. The first is regarding your ascertained or specific goods. That means what? If it is a specific goods, particular goods which can be ascertained, that have been identified or specified by the parties at the time of making the contract, then only the seller or what does not have to make any modification or addition to the good. And the rules relating to the transfer of a property in specific goods, we have to follow. What are these rules? You see, first the goods should be
सर
in a daily.
उसका एक एग्जाम्पल दीजिए ना सर.
हाँ हाँ, अब एग्जाम्पल अभी दे रहा हूँ ना. जो फर्स्ट पॉइंट जो है, गुड्स इन डिलीवरेबल स्टेट. Goods in deliverable state means what? If there is no modification required, then it is the goods is called in a deliverable state. If certain condition is required, it should be condition. If the goods required to be suppose small pack से suppose large pack से small pack करना है, ये एक condition. So if it is not deliverable, here you see we can, where there is an unconditional contract for the sale of a specific goods in a deliverable state, the property in the goods passes to the buyer when the contract is made. Understand? Just we need to understand what is the time when the ownership of the goods passes from one party to another. If it is an unconditional contract for the sale of a specific goods, sale of a specific goods in a deliverable state, then the property in the goods passes to the buyer when the contract is made. Right? Able to understand this?
No, sir.
Not able to understand. You see, if you are making a contract of a sale of a specific goods and that specific goods is in a deliverable state, that means no such processing is required, immediately we can transfer it if we have intention. Then the property in the goods will pass to the buyer when the contract is made. Whenever we are making the contract, if it is a specific goods, if the goods are in the deliverable state, then the property in the goods will pass immediately when both the parties will enter into contract. Right?
Okay.
And the second one, if goods is not in a deliverable state, then we need to follow to another section, that is section 21. So ये section 21 क्या बताता है? Section 21 lays down that where there is a contract for the sale of a specific goods which is not in a deliverable state, the seller has to do something to the goods to put them in a deliverable state. And the property does not pass until such thing is done and the buyer has a notice of it. इसका मतलब क्या हो रहा है? अगर ये goods आपका deliverable state में नहीं है और deliverable state में लाने के लिए कुछ conditioning जरूरी है, तो आपने contract कर दिया लेकिन immediately property transfer नहीं होगा till the processing will finish. जब तक processing finish नहीं होता है, that means we need to bring the goods into deliverable state, then only the property in the goods will pass. Okay.
Sir.
Next point is that when the price of the goods is to be ascertained by weighing, testing, or some other conditions. That means what? If it is a specific good and the goods in the deliverable state, but the seller is bound to measure it or test it to do some act which is required for that, then the property does not pass until such act or thing is done and the buyer has notice thereof. For example, I am telling you, suppose you have order for one truck of potato, right? And now when the truck if the truck is in your presence, that means both the parties are there and the truck is there, but you need to verify. You need to verify what? Whether all the potatoes are intact or most of them are rotten. First thing. And the second thing, what is the exact weight of the potatoes? So unless these two things are inspected, the property cannot pass. Right? That means suppose you may have paid for it, but the thing is that unless there is testing and weighing, the property cannot pass. कभी कभी होता है, देखते हो ना कि रोड में भी होता है, गाड़ी खड़ा होता है क्या कि भाई ऑनलोड नहीं हो पा रहा है, क्यों? उसमें टेक्निकल डिफिकल्टी क्या है कि ये जो पार्टी का जो कंडीशन था उसमें कि और टेस्ट करके देखेंगे कि भाई ये जो पोटैटो है इसका कितना % रोटन है और वेट कितना होगा। तो ये दोनों चीजें खत्म जब तक नहीं होता है तब तक आपका ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर भी नहीं होगा। ओके, this is regarding your ascertained goods, and whenever it is on ascertained goods, it attracts your section 23. Until goods are ascertained, there is merely an agreement to sell. As I told you, a contract of sale cannot be possible. If you have made a contract, then it is not a contract, but it is simply an agreement to sell. Is that right? So, what are the rules governing the transfer of ownership of unascertained goods? First, you see, goods must be ascertained. First, the goods need to be ascertained, and then the ownership of the goods will be transferred. And goods must be ascertained means that means we have to identify the goods. Particular goods we need to identify it. Suppose जो सेलर है उसका बहुत बड़ा गोडाउन है, लेकिन आपको जो गुड्स बेच रहा है, you have to find out exactly which, you have to identify exactly which goods you need to buy. Okay, that is what ascertained. And the second one, the goods must be appropriated. Appropriated का मतलब क्या हो रहा है? सपोज आपको जो गुड्स मिलना है वो एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप का गुड्स है, वो एक ह्यूज कंटेनर में, वो ह्यूज कंटेनर जो है उसमें बहुत क्वांटिटी है, लेकिन उसमें से आपको कुछ चाहिए, एंटायर क्वांटिटी यू डोंट वांट। तो ये क्या होगा? दैट मीन्स द गुड्स विल बी अप्रोप्रिएटेड। वहां से निकालेंगे, आपका जितना रिक्वायरमेंट है उसी के हिसाब से पैकिंग होगा। दैट गुड्स मस्ट बी अप्रोप्रिएटेड। Okay, only after that the ownership can be transferred. Okay, कभी कभी होता है कि goods must be delivered to the carrier. अभी क्या हो रहा है? तो जो कैरियर होता है जनरली क्या होता है, whenever suppose both the parties are in a different state or different places, now they are जब contract होता है, contract of sale होता है, then what they are doing, generally they are handing over the goods to the carrier. Carrier का मतलब समझते हो ना, ट्रांसपोर्ट वाले जो होते हैं। ओके, इज दैट ऑडिबल?
यस सर, ये थोड़ा और एक बार बोलिए।
हाँ, ओके, जनरली क्या होता है कि when both the parties, that means buyer and seller are in a distant place, so here you see, if there will be any contract of the sale, then the buyer need to transfer the ownership of the goods. So here when the party send the goods to the or deliver the goods to the carrier का मतलब होता है जो transporter. Okay, if the goods has been handed over to the transporter along with its requisite documents, then that is understood that the ownership or the title of the goods has been passed to the buyer, right?
Okay.
Then another thing is there, that is goods sent on approval or on sale or return basis. Goods sent on approval basis, generally it is called goods sent on approval basis. ये क्या होता है जनरली कि अभी देखो जैसे कि आप ऑनलाइन में ज्यादातर परचेज करते हो, यहाँ पर क्या होता है, दे आर सेंडिंग यू द गुड्स and you need to verify everything in the goods, and if you approve the goods, approve everything, then there will be contract of sale. So if the customer will not approve the goods, then there will be no contract of sale, but an agreement to sell, right? So here the question is that when the property in the goods passes, when the property in the goods will passes from the seller to the buyer. Why? Because you see, goods once sent to the customer, now the goods are sent to the customer. Customer will verify everything, and if the customer will give the approval, if the customer will give the approval, then only there will be the sale. That means what? Acceptance of the buyer is required. So when the buyer signifies his approval or acceptance to the seller, at that time, the ownership of the goods will pass. But the buyer occupied that goods earlier from that, isn't it? अभी देखो क्या हो रहा है कि आप अगर अप्रूवल बेसिस में किसी को सेल कर रहे हो, तो फर्स्ट यू नीड टू सेंड दिस गुड्स टू योर कस्टमर. The customer will verify everything, and if they will give their approval, then only the sale will be made. That means the ownership of the goods or the title of the goods will pass only when the buyer signifies his approval. Is that clear?
Sir.
Okay. Then you see, now we'll discuss few contracts which are involving sea routes. Sea route का मतलब जानते हो ना, जो export import होता है, basically the goods are transferred through the sea routes. तो ये जो sea routes होते हैं, ये sea routes में कुछ different types of contracts होते हैं. मैं सारा तो डिस्कशन नहीं कर पाऊंगा, कुछ few I'll discuss. First one is your FAS contract. FAS. So ये FAS क्या होता है? Free alongside ship. Free alongside ship. Here you see, in this type of a contract particularly, the property in the goods sold under a FAS contract passes from the seller to the buyer when the goods are delivered alongside the ship named by the buyer under a contract of the carriage. That means in the contract, it has been mentioned by the side of which ship the goods will be placed. So accordingly, when goods are placed by the side of the ship, then on the basis of a FAS contract, the ownership of the goods or the title of the goods has been transferred from the seller to the buyer. Is that okay?
Sir, again.
Again, okay. So FAS stands for free alongside ship. Free alongside ship. That means in this type of a contract particularly, here you see in a contract, the name of the ship has been mentioned. And now it is the duty of the seller to place the goods by the side of the ship, so that the property in the goods shall be transferred immediately from the seller to the buyer, right? Another one is your FOB contract. FOB means what? Free on board. So ये जो free on board का मतलब क्या होता है? In this type of a contract particularly, the seller is to put the goods on board a ship at his own expenses. That means the seller will take the expenses till the goods are loaded on the ship. And once he will load the goods on the ship, particular ship whose name has been mentioned in the contract, then only the ownership shall pass from the seller to the buyer. Is that right?
Sir, in case of FAS also, the property in goods sold.
If the goods reach the side of the ship, that means not on the ship, by the side of the ship, then it is the responsibility of the buyer to make all the expenses to put on board. That means to carry to the ship. All the expenses will burn by him. ओके
सर इन दिस केस एक बार लोडिंग कर दिया तो हो गया।
नहीं नहीं, देखो लोडिंग से पहले एक्चुअली हम अगर एफएस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट देखें तो बाय द साइड ऑफ द शिप, पर्टिकुलर शिप जो मेंशन होता है, ये शिप के साइड में लाकर माल रख दिया तो उनका ओनरशिप इमीडिएटली ट्रांसफर हो जाता है। लेकिन एफओबी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में क्या होता है, गुड्स लाते हैं, शिप के साइड में रखते हैं, उसके बाद शिप में लोड करते हैं, एंड शिप में लोड करने के लिए जितना एक्सपेंसेस है दैट विल आल्सो बी बर्न बाय द सेलर। ये ओनली शिप में पूरा जब बोर्ड हो जाता है तभी उनका ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर होता है। समझ में आया?
सर
नहीं, अभी क्लियर हुआ ना? नहीं?
हाँ सर। सर
Okay, okay. Now we'll touch another type of a contract, that is CIF. So CIF का मतलब क्या होता है? Cost, Insurance and Freight. So इसमें क्या होता है? You see, the seller will bear all these expenses, that is the cost of the goods as well as insurance. इंश्योरेंस का मतलब यहाँ पर माराइन इंश्योरेंस जनरली होता है, इंश्योरेंस एंड फ्रेट। फ्रेट का मतलब क्या होता है? जो शिपमेंट के लिए जो चार्जेस होता है, एवरीथिंग। और इसका मतलब क्या हो रहा है कि अगर सीआईएफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है तो शिप जाकर जहां जिस पोर्ट से निकलना चाहिए था उसी पोर्ट से निकलेगा, और जो डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट है, डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट में पहुंचेगा, तभी जाकर ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर होगा, उससे पहले नहीं। ठीक है? क्यों? क्योंकि इसमें देखो कॉस्ट भी इंक्लूडेड है, इंश्योरेंस भी इंक्लूडेड है एंड फ्रेट भी इंक्लूडेड है। तो फ्रेट जहां तक खत्म होगा तभी ये प्रॉपर्टी ट्रांसफर हो पाएगा, उससे पहले प्रॉपर्टी ट्रांसफर नहीं होगा सीआईएफ में। समझ में आ रहा है?
हाँ एक्चुअली हमारा तीनों अलग अलग है।
हाँ
एफएस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में आफ्टर रिसीविंग ऑफ द गुड्स,
यस
आफ्टर रिसीविंग ऑफ गुड्स एफएस में।
यस यस
एफओबी में गुड लोडिंग होने के बाद तो पूरा पैसा जितना खर्चा वो देने के बाद तो कंप्लीट हुआ।
यस एंड सीआईएफ में पूरा डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट में जाकर पहुंचेगा तभी ये ओनरशिप आपको ट्रांसफर होगा, उससे पहले नहीं।
जैसे फर्स्ट वन था।
नहीं नहीं, फर्स्ट वन में तो साइड ऑफ द शिप, इसका मतलब जो पोर्ट से जो निकलेगा ना माल, उससे पहले
हाँ
शिप के साइड में रख दिए, बस उनका खत्म हो गया। दे विल नॉट टेक एनी अदर रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। नाउ इट इज द
हाँ हाँ
रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द बायर टू मेक ऑल द एक्सपेंसेस टू ऑन बोर्ड द गुड्स टू द शिप एंड टू पे द फ्रेट एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स। बट ये जो सीआईएफ जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है, ये सीआईएफ में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में क्या होता है, द सेलर विल बियर ऑल द एक्सपेंसेस। That means he will bear the cost, he will bear the insurance and he will also bear the freight. तो फ्रेट अगर दे रहा है, इसका मतलब फ्रेट खत्म होता है कहाँ पर? डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट में। समझ में आ रहा है? तो डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट में जब माल पहुंचेगा तभी ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर होगा, उससे पहले नहीं होगा। इज दैट क्लियर?
देन द डिफरेंस बिटवीन सेकंड एंड थर्ड इज, सेकंड में इंश्योरेंस वगैरह नहीं है, इसमें इंश्योरेंस है।
हाँ, इसमें इंश्योरेंस है। इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, फर्स्ट वन में, ये जो सेकंड वन में था एफओबी, इसका मतलब शिप में माल अनलोड हो गया तो आपका ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर हो गया। लेकिन सीआईएफ में क्या, गुड्स अनलोड हो, गुड्स लोड होगा, लोड होने के बाद भी इंश्योरेंस रहे, इंश्योरेंस एक्सपेंसेस होगा, देन फ्रेट होगा। तो फ्रेट खत्म होता है कहाँ पर? डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट में जब पहुंच जाएगा। जब डेस्टिनेशन पोर्ट में पहुंच जाएगा तभी ownership or the property of the goods will passes from the seller to the buyer.
इवन इन सेकंड केस ऑल्सो डेस्टिनेशन पहुंचने का बाद ही होता है ना?
नहीं 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 नहीं, सेकेंड में देखो एफओबी, इसका मतलब क्या होता है कि ये जो शिप जो निकलेगा ना जीसी पोर्ट से, उसी शिप
हाँ
में जब तक लोड हो जाएगा, माल लोड हो जाएगा, तो ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर हो रहा है। Why? You see here, the buyer will bear all the expenses of insurance and freight and all these, right?
ओके
थोड़ा
Okay,
थोड़ा
sir.
थोड़ा difference है, little bit differences are there, and we need to understand all these. Okay, so these are a few different types of contracts. Abhi, then what we need to discuss? I think most of the things we have covered. तो अभी तक जितना डिस्कशन किया है, कुछ डाउट है आपका? एनीबॉडी?
No, sir.
Okay.
Another one is excessive contract है ना?
Yes, yes.
And another one excessive contract है ना?
Different types of contracts are there. Different types of the contracts are there, but it is not possible to discuss everything. So few important types only I have discussed. Apart from that, many other types of contracts are there. Okay. So let us discuss regarding the performance of the contract. Okay. So now we'll go to
Sir,
the
exam में question आने से जरूरत नहीं लिखने का. Excessive contract.
एग्जाम में ये अगर आएगा तो हियर द क्वेश्चन विल कम व्हाट अ few types of contract of the sale you can write here. Okay, few types, different types. Whenever it will ask to give some examples of different types of a contract, at that time you will give this type of answers. Okay, they will not specify regarding what are the different types of contracts of a sale which are entered between the seller and a buyer. Okay, this type of question will not come. Now we'll go a little bit into the section 31 of the Sales of a Goods Act, which is regarding your performance of the contract. So performance.
सर इसमें सेल बाय नॉन ओनर्स भी है.
Yes, yes.
There is sale by non-owners.
That is not in the syllabus. I have gone through the syllabus. Whatever covered in the syllabus, I am discussing those. Okay.
Okay, sir. Not in syllabus, sir.
Whatever in the syllabus, I am discussing them.
Okay. Syllabus में नहीं है.
नहीं है. Syllabus में नहीं है.
Sir.
Now another thing is there which is a part of your syllabus, that is regarding performance of the contract. Okay. So this performance of the contract is what described in the section 31 of the Sales of the Goods Act. Here you see the performance of a contract of a sale means as regard to the seller, delivery of the goods to the buyer, and as regards the buyer, acceptance of the delivery of the goods and a payment for them. So these are the few performance of the contract. That means how the contract of sale will come to an end. Generally, what performance of a contract means, or how the contract will come to an end, right? So let us understand the first one, that is the delivery of goods. If you will understand section 2 subsection 2, then the Contract Act defines the delivery as the voluntary transfer of a possession of goods from one person to another.
Actually meaning and definition में उसमें performance of contract का क्या meaning बोले सर?
हाँ, अभी performance of a contract का मतलब क्या हो रहा है? How the contract will come to an end. If both the parties will fulfill their obligations to the contract, then the contract will come to an end. That is your performance of the contract. Okay, how the contract will come to an end? By the performance of the parties. That means both the parties to the contract, they will fulfill their obligation. Then the performance of the contract shall be made. Right?
Sir.
Okay. The first one, as I told you, ये परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ एक कंट्रैक्ट में क्या होता है कि एक पॉइंट होता है डिलीवरी ऑफ द गुड्स. सो अगर यहाँ पर गुड्स डिलीवरी हो जाता है तो इन एनी वे we can tell that the contract has been performed or the performance of the contract. Why? Because in a contract of sale, generally the payment has been made and the delivery of goods, that means the possession of the goods and the ownership, transfer of ownership of a goods matter. So if the party has received, one party has received the consideration and the other party has delivered the goods to the concerned party, then the ownership of the goods already transferred. That means the performance of the contract has been made, right? But this delivery is a bilateral act. Delivery of goods. Okay, as delivery of goods is a bilateral act, that is why we need to understand what are the basic elements of delivery. A few basic elements are there. As a person, what you see, the first delivery of the goods means possession, right? And this possession, for this purpose, one person will transfer the possession of the goods to another. And here you see this, what a transfer is voluntary. So these are the few essentials of your elements of your delivery. That means a person will take the possession. That means suppose one person has the possession of the goods, and that person will transfer the his possession of the goods to another person. And this act of possessing the goods or transferring the possession of the goods should be voluntary, right? First, a person has a possession. Second, he transfer that possession to another person. And the third one, he does so voluntarily, right? Then we'll discuss what are the different modes of delivery are there. And these modes of delivery has been described under section 33 of the Sales of Goods Act. Here you see, whenever we discuss regarding various modes of delivery, it may be actual delivery. Actual delivery means an actual delivery is a physical delivery of goods, and it takes place when the goods are physically handed over by the seller to the buyer. Then it is called your actually delivery of the goods. Okay, and the second one is your symbolic delivery. Symbolic delivery means, here you see the goods, when the goods are of such large quantity or weight or so bulky that it is incapable of actual delivery. अगर कोई छोटा चीज होता है तो आपके हाथ में दे दे तो ये हो जाता है आपका एक्चुअल डिलीवरी जो होता है मियर पोजीशन ट्रांसफर. बट जहां पर गुड्स बहुत ज्यादा होता है, वेरी व्हाट ह्यूज क्वांटिटी और वेट और बल्की and incapable of actual delivery, then the delivery of the title of the documents of the good. यहाँ पर क्या डिलीवरी का मतलब क्या होता है? जो टाइटल ऑफ द डॉक्यूमेंट्स का मतलब क्या होता है? कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स के थ्रू जब हमारा ओनरशिप ट्रांसफर होता है उसको बताते हैं कि टाइटल डॉक्यूमेंट्स. ओके, ये टाइटल डॉक्यूमेंट्स जब हैंड ओवर होता है, डिलीवरी होता है, तो इट इज अंडरस्टूड दैट गुड्स आर बीइंग ट्रांसफर्ड. ये होता है आपका सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी. समझ में आ रहा है सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी क्या होता है? जहां पर
नहीं सर, आप एक बार बोलिए.
हाँ, जहां पर गुड्स बहुत ज्यादा होता है, तो मानो सपोज 100 टन माल जो होगा वो तो आपको हाथ में उठाकर नहीं दे सकता ना, कि आप भी उसको हाथ में भी नहीं ले सकते. तो यहाँ पर कैसे होगा? तो ये जितना गुड्स है, सपोज 100 टन के लिए एक डॉक्यूमेंट प्रिपेयर होगा. वो जो डॉक्यूमेंट होगा वही होता है डॉक्यूमेंट, टाइटल डॉक्यूमेंट्स होता है. ये टाइटल डॉक्यूमेंट जब डिलीवरी होगा, एट दैट टाइम इट इज कॉल्ड सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी ऑफ द गुड्स. समझ में आ रहा है?
बट वो डिलीवरी थ्रू सम ट्रांसपोर्टेशन होगा.
हाँ, वो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन में हो सकता है, जीसी में भी हो सकता है, लेकिन जो डॉक्यूमेंट आपको ट्रांसफर जब होगा ना, जब आपके पास डॉक्यूमेंट पहुंचेगा तो ये होगा डिलीवरी. डॉक्यूमेंट जब तक आपके पास नहीं पहुंचेगा तो ये डिलीवरी नहीं होगा. तो डॉक्यूमेंट पहुंचेगा. ये डॉक्यूमेंट क्या होता है? ये डॉक्यूमेंट होता है आपका डॉक्यूमेंट ऑफ टाइटल ऑफ द गुड्स. यू कैन टेक द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ बिल ऑफ लैडिंग, रेलवे रिसिप्ट. ये जो सब होता है, ये जो रेलवे रिसिप्ट आपके पास जब पहुंच जाता है तो आपका डिलीवरी सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी हो गया. और बिल ऑफ लैडिंग जब आपके पास पहुंच जाता है तो ये सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी ऑफ गुड्स होता है. ठीक है? तो यहाँ पर एक्चुअली क्या होता है? एज ह्यूज क्वांटिटी ऑफ गुड्स, सो इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल टू टेक द गुड्स बाय हैंड. अभी सपोज मुझे अगर मेरा पेन आपको सेल करना है तो मैं मेरा पेन आपको आपके हाथ में दे देता हूँ, तो ये हो गया आपका एक्चुअल डिलीवरी। समझ में आ रहा है ना?
सर
लेकिन अगर मैं आपको 1 टन पेन चाहिए या 1 ट्रक पेन चाहिए, तो 1 ट्रक पेन तो मैं तो आपको हाथ में पकड़ा नहीं सकता। इसलिए क्या करूंगा, ये 1 ट्रक जो पेन होगा उसके लिए एक डॉक्यूमेंट होगा, टाइटल टाइटल डॉक्यूमेंट होगा। ये जो टाइटल डॉक्यूमेंट होगा, ये इसको जब मैं आपके हाथ में दे दूंगा तभी हो जाएगा ये सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी। समझ में आ रहा है?
सर
ओके। Then few rules are there regarding your delivery of the goods. One is depending upon the mode of delivery. इसका मतलब ये delivery of goods sold maybe by doing anything with the part. इसका मतलब ये किसी में भी हो सकता है, जैसे कि आपका एक्चुअल हो सकता है, सिंबॉलिक हो सकता है, कंस्ट्रक्टिव भी हो सकता है। So, under the provisions of the Sales of Goods Act, the rules that apply to the delivery of a goods, maybe it depends upon the mode of a delivery, and the delivery and payment are concurrent conditions. इसका मतलब क्या होता है? If the payment has not made, only the delivery of the goods has been made. Do you think that the performance of the contract has been made? No. तब इसका मतलब पेमेंट नहीं हुआ लेकिन डिलीवरी ऑफ द गुड्स हो गया, तो आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ
सर
सेल।
वो समझ में नहीं आता सर, एग्जाम्पल दे के बताइए।
हाँ हाँ, मैं एक वही तो एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ कि इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि पेमेंट नहीं हुआ है, पेमेंट नहीं हुआ लेकिन डिलीवरी ऑफ गुड्स हो गया है।
हाँ।
तो इज इट ए परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट? कॉन्ट्रैक्ट परफॉर्म हो गया क्या? कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंप्लीट हो जाएगा इसमें? नहीं। Why?
No.
Because one party has not fulfilled his obligation, that means the payment has not been made. इसीलिए क्या हो रहा है कि डिलीवरी एंड पेमेंट आर कॉन्करेंट कंडीशंस। कॉन्करेंट कंडीशंस का मतलब क्या होता है? जैसे कि हम बोलते हैं कि एक हाथ में लेना, दूसरे हाथ में देना, जिसे बोलते हैं ना, likewise your delivery of the goods and the payment of the price must be according to the what they should be the concurrent conditions according to the terms of the contract. तो contract में जैसे mention हो रहा है, accordingly both will act, that is the delivery of the goods and the payment, right?
Sir,
another thing we need to understand, effect of the part delivery. Effect of the part delivery का मतलब क्या होता है? जितना गुड्स आपने ऑर्डर,
इसके अंडर में सर आप बोले पेमेंट नहीं हुआ, डिलीवरी हो गया।
हाँ, तो इसमें क्या हो रहा है? दैट मीन्स अगर पेमेंट आपका नहीं हुआ है और डिलीवरी हो गया तो परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हुआ। इसका मतलब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज स्टिल एग्जीक्यूटोरी, नॉट एग्जीक्यूटेड। समझ में आ रहा है ना? तो इसके लिए हमें क्या होगा, जब तक ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंप्लीट, बोथ द पार्टीज विल कंप्लीट देयर ओब्लिगेशन, देन देयर विल बी द परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। लेकिन यहाँ एक पार्टी तो वो कंप्लीट कर दिया, भाई पहले ही गुड्स आपको डिलीवरी दे दिया, लेकिन अभी तक आप पैसा नहीं दिए। तो पैसा नहीं दिए तो इसका मतलब अभी तक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का परफॉर्मेंस नहीं हुआ है। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का परफॉर्मेंस कब खत्म होगा? जब आप पेमेंट खत्म करोगे। डिलीवरी ऑफ द गुड्स तो हो गया, अब पेमेंट खत्म करना है। और ये जो दोनों चीज पर्टिकुलरली रिगार्डिंग डिलीवरी ऑफ द गुड्स एंड पेमेंट, बोथ आर कंकरेंट कंडीशंस। कंकरेंट कंडीशंस मींस, जैसे कि मैं बताया एग्जांपल जो बताया कि आपको एक हाथ में लेना, दूसरे हाथ में देना। जैसे होता है कि आप कभी शॉप से जाकर जब खरीदते हो चीज, क्या करते हो? एक हाथ में गुड्स लेते हो, दूसरे हाथ में पैसा दे देते हो, तो वहां पर परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो जाता है, राइट?
हाँ, तो उसका एंड क्या है?
हाँ, एंड वही है ना, बताया कि अगर पेमेंट आपने नहीं दिया और डिलीवरी हो गया, इसका मतलब आप मत समझिए कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ सेल खत्म हो गया। तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ सेल खत्म नहीं हुआ, परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अभी तक नहीं हुआ, क्योंकि अनदर पार्टी इज सपोज टू मेक द पेमेंट।
हाँ, तो पेमेंट होने तक वो,
हाँ, पेमेंट होने से ही कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंप्लीट होगा, तभी तक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ।
फिर अटॉर्नमेंट मीन्स व्हाट?
क्या क्या क्या?
लिखा है ना कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिलीवरी और डिलीवरी बाय अटॉर्नमेंट.
No. That is different aspect, but that I am not discussing. What I am discussing, that is delivery and a payment are concurrent conditions. Concurrent conditions. Concurrent का मतलब जैसे कि simultaneous एक हाथ में लेना दूसरे हाथ में देना, that is simultaneously both will follow. इसका मतलब अगर आप पहले डिलीवरी ले लिया तो इमीडिएटली आपको पेमेंट करना है, अगर पेमेंट नहीं किया तो भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का परफॉर्मेंस नहीं हुआ है. फॉर द परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बोथ शुड बी कंप्लीटेड एट ए टाइम, दैट इज ए कंकरेंट कंडीशन. एट ए टाइम साइमल्टेनियसली बोथ विल फॉलो. दैट मीन्स ये डिलीवरी होगा गुड्स एंड पेमेंट ऑल्सो बी मेड. ओके.
अच्छा.
हाँ. नेक्स्ट इज इफेक्ट ऑफ अ पार्ट डिलीवरी. पार्ट डिलीवरी का मतलब क्या होता है? कभी कभार हम जो ऑर्डर करते हैं हमारे पास सारा चीज पहुंचता नहीं है, एक पार्ट पहुंचता है. तो
नहीं सर, आप जो पढ़े वन
हाँ.
एक्चुअल डिलीवरी, सिंबॉलिक डिलीवरी, अनदर इज कंस्ट्रक्टिव डिलीवरी और डिलीवरी बाय अटॉर्नमेंट. ये पढ़ा ही नहीं आप?
हाँ, नहीं वो छोड़ दिया, वो दैट इज नॉट सो इम्पोर्टेंट, दैट इज वाई उसको छोड़ दिया. आई एम कीपिंग देम. ओके.
नहीं
व्हाट इज
सर, आप
द इम्पोर्टेंट?
उसको दरकार, that is not required.
No. These actually whatever the important things that I am covering. So if we'll go into detail into everything, then we will not able to cover. That is why only important things I am covering, right?
Sir.
Okay. Now we are discussing regarding the delivery and the payment are concurrent conditions according to section 32. जैसे कि बता रहा हूँ, the delivery of the goods and the payment of the price must be according to the terms of the contract and both should be complete in order to make the performance of the contract. Unless any of the act has been completed, the performance of the contract has not been made. And the next point is your effect of a part delivery. Part delivery, that means what? If you have made made a contract of a sale of some quantity of goods, but you have received only that means a part of the goods has been delivered. Okay, the delivery of the part of the goods in progress of the delivery of the whole. That means it has the same effect for the purpose of passing the property in such goods as a delivery of the whole. But a delivery of the goods with an intention of serving it from the whole does not operate a delivery of the remainder. इसका मतलब क्या हो रहा है? अभी suppose my intention is to sell you the entire, that means deliver the entire good, but due to certain problem, that is a transportation problem or any other problem, part of the goods has been reached to you and another part is on the way. Okay, then it will be understood that you will also receive the that means the delivery of the entire lot. But if the party has the intention of not sending the entire goods, then the performance of the contract cannot be possible, right? कभी कभी पार्टी क्या होता है, पेमेंट मिल जाने के बाद क्या करते हैं, एक पार्ट ऑफ द गुड्स दे आर सेंडिंग एंड दे आर होल्डिंग अनदर पार्ट ऑफ द, that means they don't have the intention to make the payment. So here you see the performance of the contract has not been made, and the party, here you see the affected party can file a suit in the court of law regarding the non-performance of the contract. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the few conditions. Many बहुत सारे conditions है, but I think time is also not permitting us to make so many things.
Then another one is buy or apply for delivery.
This is also there. So many points are there. I am just seeing that many points are there. But if we'll go through all these points, it will be very time consuming. So ये effect of part delivery समझ में आया? Buyer to apply for delivery, that means what? Wherever a part of the product has been received by the buyer, Now the buyer can apply for the next the delivery of the rest part of the good. That means if the party will fail after what reminder for the payment of the delivery of the rest amount of the goods, now the party can also sue. Okay. If subsequently the party will not acquire, then the party can also take the help of the law to protect him from the getting the rest amount of the goods if the payment has been made.
सर वो थोड़ा बता दीजिए, एग्जाम्पल कुछ देंगे सर।
उसमें क्या है, देखो अभी सपोज आपने ऑर्डर किया है 1 टन माल के लिए आपने ऑर्डर किया है, ठीक है, और मैं आपको माल भेज रहा हूँ, हमारे साथ हम दोनों में एक एग्रीमेंट एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ है। सो अभी क्या हो रहा है, आई हैव सेंट द गुड्स एंटायर गुड्स बट ए पार्ट ऑफ गुड्स हैज बीन रीच टू यू because I don't have any intention to what deceive you. That is why part of goods has been received. Whenever you have received a part of the goods, that means a part of goods has been delivered to you. That means it will be assumed that you have received a part of goods means you will receive the entire amount of goods. That is why the performance of the contract has been complete. But if I have any what illicit intention, that I will ask you for the payment and you have made the payment in full, but I have sent the goods what a part payment part delivery I have made, then what will happen? For the rest part, what you will do, you have a right to apply for the delivery for the rest part. So even after reminder, if I will not send you the delivery of the next lot or next part rest part, then you can file a suit against me to recover the rest part which is not delivered to you. Okay. Is that okay? Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then a few other conditions are there. Please you go through it, and if you face any difficulty, we will discuss in the next class. Please go through these points because it is actually not possible to discuss everything. As
sir, just one line you tell, na sir.
Actually, it cannot be certain points are there which cannot be explained in one line. Suppose
one sir, this point number 9 you see,
yes,
goods 7, goods in possession of a third person. इसको बोल दीजिए सर।
Point 9 or point 7?
Point 7.
Okay. Goods in possession of a third person. That means you see, when the goods are with a third party, that means suppose you are the seller and I am the buyer, but the goods never reach to me, and the goods are also not within your possession also. That means the goods now is entirely with the third party. Goods are with a third party. So that means there is no delivery by the seller to the buyer until.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, sir. Sir, Sudipto Nanda, sir.
Sir, नमस्कार sir, कुहतु sir.
नमस्कार.
Sir, आपनकर टाइम हेलानी क्लास रो.
Sir.
अच्छा हौ सर, हौ ठीक है सर, मैं तबे होस्ट ट्रांसफर कर देबी आपनको ना ऑटोमेटिक
आगे होस्ट ट्रांसफर कर दियौ।
अच्छा सर, ठीक अछि सर, हो. Okay students, thank you. I am transferring the host to sir. Sir will take the.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
sir. Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Sir, जो management department is in the host now.
तो क्या अछन की मैनेजमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के ना?
Yes, sir. Management department is the host, and Dr. Sudipta, you are sir co-host, na? Sir, already co-host. You are already became the co-host.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir. Thank you, sir. You can take the class.
Thank you.
वो इधर रखो, उस जगह में।